I am the most popular college entrance examination math lecturer on the internet. When I was in high school, I won various awards in mathematics competitions, and I won the circle because of my super good looks and full marks in mathematics in the college entrance examination. Now he is suspected of being the murderer of a recent serial crime. My father, stepfather, stepfather's daughter, and my seniors are all related to me, but they all happen one after another. When all the evidence points to me. But my mother knelt on the ground in pain and said sorry to me. 1. The sound of the police car's siren resounded throughout the campus. Except for my repeat class, almost all the students in the school couldn't resist their curiosity and ran to the corridor to watch. And the repeat students in my class are only listening to my lecture carefully. Except for the score, they don't care about the rest. As an excellent lecturer, I was invited to my alma mater to explain my skills. Of course, I was invited more because I also restudied for a year and got remarkable results which motivated them. However, at this moment, I was interrupted halfway through the lecture in a humorous and easy-to-understand way. I looked at the door, and the person who interrupted me turned out to be a policeman. There are also many students outside whispering about something. In those eyes gathered on me there are curiosity, doubts, puzzlement, and horror. But what makes me most deeply is the resentment. I am very familiar with this person, Li Xinrong's younger brother. I turned my head to look at the green faces under the stage and smiled indifferently. I'm sorry I couldn't finish the rest of the questions to you. I hope each of you can be on the gold list next year. Come on. After saying that, I walked to the door, but a figure ran straight into me. The incident happened suddenly, and the police had not had time to stop the man, and he had scratched several blood marks on my face. My fingertips rubbed my face, and the bright red reflected in my eyes, which was a little nostalgic. Li Xinrong's brother has been completely controlled by the police. He shouted at me heartbreakingly. Suemo, you murderous madman, is really disgusting. My sister and you used to be best friends, and I even regard you as my sister, but why did you kill her? Why? The last person he saw before his sister disappeared was me. And my mother, that is, his stepmother, said positively that Li Xinrong's accident must have something to do with me. I twisted the blood on my hand casually and sighed in pain. You may have misunderstood. How can I kill your sister? We are best friends. All at Suemo, we suspect that the death of university professor Li Zhuocheng, the disappearance of your father Su Weiguang, your friend Li Xinrong and your senior Song Jingshu are related to you. Now please come with us to assist in the investigation. Hearing this, what I thought was that it was a coincidence that 4 people could just put together a table of mahjong. It should not be boring. As soon as the police officer's words fell, the onlookers were shocked and took a breath of cold air. How could it be? How could it be killed by senior sister Suemo? I don't know if I made a mistake. There are so many policemen, how can they be fake? But no matter how you look at it, Sister Suemo doesn't look like a murderer. That's right, every year, she takes out the proceeds of being an internet celebrity to give girls 9 prizes, buy sanitary napkins for children in remote mountainous areas, and invests almost all the proceeds in charity. How can such a person kill people? That I kept silent and left with the police. I just got off the police car and was stopped by someone. 2. The person in front of him, who is no longer the same red lips as before, has a pale and haggard face, and his well-maintained face suddenly became a teenager. This is Song Jingshu's mother. She stared at me with tears in her eyes, pointing at my hands and shaking uncontrollably. Suemo, my son likes you so much. How can you kill him? You have no heart. You will go to hell. I stepped forward and held her hand in a gentle tone. Auntie, the police said that Senior Jingshu was missing. Who said I killed him? You should pay attention to evidence in everything. It's not that whoever's voice is loud is reasonable. Don't talk nonsense. Maybe Senior Jingshu just went out to relax. After all, you always think he is weak and strictly controlled. As time goes for a long time, people will always be a little rebellious. Obviously, she couldn't listen to my advice at all, as if her precious son was really dead. She didn't look like a strong woman in the past. She sat on the ground and broke down and cried, which looked a little pitiful. Alas, why don't you believe it? Senior Jingshu is a very good person. How can a good man die? The rain is getting heavier and heavier. I'm afraid some weeds will drown. 3. This is not the first time I have been interrogated. In the past few times, because I was a public figure, I was afraid of causing a commotion, so I was secretly summoned. But this time, Li Xinrong and senior Song Jingshu disappeared on the same day. But they took me away in public. Is it because there is enough certainty? Or, if you want to stimulate me with public opinion, I want to plead guilty. But I won't admit it unless there is conclusive evidence in front of me. The call showed that Song Jingshu called you first, and half an hour later, he then called his mother again. We asked his mother. Song Jingshu told his mother to take good care of herself and then hung up, and then disappeared. What did he say to you? I thought about it for a moment before I said. He is the president of my mathematics club. I took a math problem that I didn't quite understand to ask him, but he was not feeling well, so he asked me to come to him another day. That day, he called to explain the math problems for me. Team Lu's eyes are sharp. The last time Song Jingshu appeared was downstairs in your house. The last person Li Xinrong saw before her disappearance was you, and there was a fierce quarrel between you two. I frowned. Is that so? I'm not sure about this. As for Li Xinrong, she found out that I was hooking up with her father, so she was very angry and asked me why I did this to her. After all, we were each other's best friends. She thought I had betrayed her, that's all. Seeing that I couldn't say 3 farts in a word as before, the quick-tempered police officer in front of me was a little impatient. Suemo, we advise you to explain everything as soon as possible. You have donated a lot of money, and you must also be a good person from the bottom of your heart. If you have any difficulties, you can say it. Maybe we can help you. Avoiding can't solve the problem. Beso, your mother probably can't bear to see you like this. She has lost your sister. Wouldn't it be pitiful if she lost her last daughter? Shut up. When the words fell, the police officer was stunned. I also regret it. I thought I was calm enough, but when it came to my sister, I always couldn't control myself. Sorry. The police officer was silent for a while. As soon as the topic changed, Team Lu suddenly asked me a question that had nothing to do with this case. Suemo, who do you think is the most likely person to hurt your sister? At this moment I have regained my composure. I just shook my head and whispered, Officer, are you wrong? My sister committed suicide. No one hurt her, she is hurting herself. But he put a report in front of me. It's my sister's original autopsy report. Your sister's lower body is completely torn, there are traces of sexual assault, the degree of blood loss is very serious, the blood of the whole body is almost lost, and there are still suspicious needle holes on her body. The most fatal injury is that she stabbed the neck aorta with a hairpin and died. Suemo, calm down. She seems to have asthma again. Hurry up. Find out if she has any spray on her body. I only felt that my throat seemed to be tightly strangled by an invisible hand, and my body seemed to be submerged in the cold sea, and I could only gasp quickly. In the midst of blurred consciousness, I seemed to return to the most desperate and darkest day in my life, for it was a rare weekend in the senior year of high school, and the sun was shining. Previously, I agreed to play games with a game netizen, so I took out my mobile phone and played a few games, but the other side was obviously online, but it seemed to be stuck and motionless. After a long time, the other party suddenly asked to invite me to drink milk tea. I refused, but she was very stubborn and insisted on. I was soft-hearted and gave my card number. She said she was busy and let me order it myself. But she actually transferred 6 digits to me anonymously, and also noted the voluntary gift. When I want to contact you again, the avatar on the opposite side has turned gray. I left the school gate and originally wanted to buy milk tea. When I passed by the familiar hearing aid specialty store, I unconsciously stopped, and my heart kept shaking. Classmate, I've seen it so many times, haven't you decided which one to choose? Recently, we have a new model in our house. If you are interested, you can come in and have a look. It's okay if you don't buy it. The clerk held a piece of paper in front of me. After reading the above, I gritted my teeth and took a deep breath to write a few big words on the notebook. I want to buy it. But I didn't expect that this was my sister's hard life money. 5. Oh, it was pink when the water flowed out. I always felt something was wrong. That child is a good girl. How can she not think of committing suicide? I heard that she must have been bullied when she worked in that kind of place. I was deaf and couldn't hear anything. I could only see their lips squirming constantly. Holding a hearing aid in my hand, I looked at the residential building surrounded by the warning line not far away, and was a little confused. Is it possible that another old man has passed away? But how can there be a warning line? Suddenly, the mobile phone vibrated. I looked down and found that it was a strange number. I happened to want to try the new hearing aid, and I put it on happily. When I heard the sound from my mobile phone the next second, my face turned pale in an instant, and I even doubted whether I had auditory hallucinations. Hello, is this Su Ping's sister Suemo? Your sister committed suicide. No, it's impossible. I didn't even look at the number, and immediately blocked it. An inexplicable panic made me fall into an ice cave. I grabbed the clothes on my chest tightly, hit my chest hard, and then ran forward to open the warning line. I was about to run home, but my arm was pulled by an aunt. She shouted at me anxiously, Momo, your sister, she? I don't listen, I don't listen, I don't listen. Get out of here. I tried my best to shake off the force pulling me on my body, and quickly I ran upstairs and almost stepped on the air and fell down the stairs on the way. I held the hearing aid in my hand tightly, wiped a handful of tears and stood up and continued to run up. The door was open and the house was a mess and it was wet everywhere. The policeman standing in front of my house holding his mobile phone glanced at me and said uncertainly, Are you the sister of the deceased? The dead. I ignored him and walked along the bloody watermarks like a puppet, and then stopped at the door of the bathroom. My sister seemed to fall asleep in the bathtub peacefully. I stood at the door and choked out to her, Sister, I'm back. But this time she will never respond to me again. I sat weakly on the ground and cried bitterly. After the examination, the forensic doctor came to my side and patted me on the shoulder, but my heart was extremely angry. I stared at her with hatred. Who killed my sister? The forensic doctor's hand stopped and sighed. Your sister committed suicide. Hearing this, I suddenly stood up and her hand fell empty. Impossible. My sister can't commit suicide. If you don't tell me, I will find this person and kill him even if I die. Calm down. Calm down? Tell me how to calm down. My sister died. She died. The throat seems to be blocked by layers of glue. What is blocked is not only the voice, but also my sadness, anger, unwillingness and helplessness. I lowered my eyes and looked at the hearing aid in my arms, and tears gradually blurred my eyes. It seemed to be raining heavily in my heart, and the painful rain separated me from my sister. When I tried to cross the rain curtain, I was corroded all over my body. When I finally crossed it, I found that it was just an illusion, and my expectation was completely disappointed. Why? I finally bought a hearing aid, but the first sentence I heard was the news of my sister's death. I don't want a hearing aid and I don't want to hear it. Even if the price is to be deaf for a lifetime, I just want my sister and her. 6. After I calmed down, Officer Liu began the interrogation again. Although it was considered suicide at that time, the traces on her body were very suspicious. We never gave up the search, but there was no result, as if someone had deliberately erased all the traces. Your mother suspects that the death and disappearance of your stepfather, your father and your friend are all related to you. Because I violated your sister, it was your stepfather. In the 4 years since your sister left, you have been very close to your stepfather, and someone even saw him kissing you. However, not long ago he suddenly fell from the top of the mountain and died on the spot, and you were an eyewitness. Is there really such a coincidence in all this? Hearing these words, my tears flowed uncontrollably, and countless complicated emotions wrapped tightly in my heart, as if strangling my neck, making it difficult for me to even breathe. The police officer pushed me repeatedly, as if he was going to break through all the defenses in my heart to make me plead guilty. As for your father, the neighbors around your family can testify. He has been domestically violent to you and your sister since you were a child, and your ears have been deaf by your father. It is impossible to say that you don't hate her. And your best friend, she is your stepfather's daughter, but you deliberately hid her identity as your mother's daughter. Can I understand that you are jealous of her? Twisting my sly fingers, I lightly wiped away the tears on my face, sucked my nose and said, I didn't mean to hide it. I also knew later that she was my stepfather's daughter. Later, it was my mother who warned me not to let Li Xinrong know that I was her daughter. Why? I don't know. You should ask my mother. The police officer threw a bunch of photos to my desk and leaned back. These are all your mother's own hands. Take a close photo of you and your stepfather. Not only that, but you also sent it to Li Xinrong to stimulate her. Can you tell the truth this time? I only glanced at those photos and said calmly, this is not illegal, is it? The police officer choked. Don't you think it's immoral? I'm sorry to your mother. Is there any Li Xinrong? I was in a trance for a moment. Morality. I don't know what morality is. When my mother knew that my stepfather violated my sister, didn't she stop her? My stepfather's daughter and my sister are just a few years apart. My sister is still his wife's daughter. Didn't she also do anything to her? You can ask him if he thinks it's immoral. Because there was not enough evidence, they had to let me go again. On the day when my agent brought a lawyer to bail me out, I was stopped again. Team Liu came over and said to me seriously that a newly opened account on the internet actually opened a live broadcast called Discipline. The protagonist is the missing Li Xinrong. 7. In the live broadcast, she shouted in horror, Suemo, don't kill me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have killed your sister. Please spare me. But I'm at the police station now. Who is Suemo in Li Xinrong's mouth? Suemo, Li Xinrong said that she killed your sister. Do you know about this? I frowned. How is it possible? My sister has no grudge with her, so I brought her to my house for dinner several times. Other than that, she and my sister have no intersection. During the live broadcast, the ground was covered with blood, and Li Xinrong's legs seemed to have been broken and drooped softly. She wanted to beg for mercy from the person sitting on the chair with only a black raincoat back, but her hands were tied and she could only howl in pain in place. Netizens all called it cruel and terrible, but the surroundings were extremely dark. Only Li Xinrong's middle was shining with a faint light, and she couldn't see where it was at all. And it will take some time for the police to find the specific location. No one knows whether the man in black in the live broadcast will save Li Xinrong's life, and whether she can survive the arrival of the police. And at the moment when everyone was anxious, my mother, whom I haven't seen for a long time, came to the police station. When she saw me, she came up directly and slapped me, and roared tremblingly, You madman! Let Rongrong go quickly. You have harmed her father. What else do you want to do? You have to ask everyone to bury your sister, don't you? My cheek hurt so much that I tried to refute. I didn't. She was prepared and lifted the black cloth to reveal an urn. My pupils shrank. This urn accompanied me for countless days and nights alone. I would never admit my mistake. I wanted to take it back, but she held the urn high above her head. Had you tell me where Rongrong is? If you don't say anything, I will smash this dead thing. Wash the ashes into the sewer. You. My asthma almost had another attack. I immediately trembled and took out the spray and sprayed it into my mouth many times before it calmed down a little. All the police around are waiting for my answer. But once I say it, these cases can no longer be related to me. I looked at the trembling urn above my mother's head, and my heart was sad. After all, I compromised. She is very likely to enter the first negative floor of the abandoned factory near my home. After I finished speaking, my mother still refused to return the urn to me. Who knows what you said is true or not, and who knows if you lied to us? I must find Rongrong before I can return it to you. I was about to laugh angrily. I won't make fun of my sister's ashes. Who knows you? When you do those crazy things, you are with me and I have no trust. I am an extremely impatient person. You don't give it to me. Well, then what happens next is beyond my control. Seeing the fierce and lonely bet in my eyes, she panicked and quickly took down the ashes. In the middle, the urn fell out of her hand because of nervousness. I immediately rushed over and hugged her tightly in my arms. It doesn't matter if I hit the ground because of inertia. It doesn't matter if it hurts as long as my sister is okay. 8. In the year of my sister's death, I was almost living a dull life, and I only got more than 200 points in the college entrance examination. The laughter from the gold list of the neighbor's house next door made me upset. I wanted to go to the refrigerator to get a bottle of wine to temporarily paralyze my nerves. When I saw the sticky note left by my sister, I was stunned for a moment. The whole refrigerator door is covered with stickers. I like black and my sister likes blue, so there are only these two colors for the sticky notes. I tore off the post-it note in the middle which said, "Momo sister, I wish you a gold list. When you finish the college entrance examination, my sister will take you on a trip." My eyes were hot, and I stuck it again and started my 1-year restudy career. I took a leave of absence from school and studied by myself at home. At home I rarely turn on the light, only swimming in the quiet darkness in all directions with a beam of light. Whenever I was a little slack and looked up to see my sister's urn, I suddenly didn't get tired. I'm an internet celebrity lecturer, but I was suspected of being a serial killer. When the evidence pointed to me, my mother was crazy 39,103 inch. In the end, I was admitted to a good university with an extremely dazzling score. My sister died so tragically that I couldn't forget it no matter how hard I was. Instead, it became the only obsession in my heart. 9. Li Xinrong was successfully rescued by the police, but her leg did not get better, and she had to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. She dances ballet very well, and netizens also gave her the title of Elegant Fairy. But now she can no longer dance on tiptoe. It's hard for her to accept it. I heard that she committed suicide several times, but luckily she was found out and saved. No one expected that the person who kidnapped Li Xinrong and broadcasted her live was actually the one who was the missing Song Jingshu. But when the police went there, they found that he had weak breath, pale complexion, high fever, and bleeding nose and skin. He suffers from aplastic anemia and has been sent to the hospital for blood transfusion. So Team Lu can only interrogate me. Song Jingshu likes you, so Sumo, did you tell him to do this? Otherwise, how do you explain that you will know their position? I just bumped into it by chance. By chance. I said positively. Yes. There is an orphanage in front of the abandoned factory. I often go there to see the children. Once they told me that there were many stray cats nearby who either starved to death or were abused to death, and begged me if I could help them. I couldn't bear to refuse, so I made a cat's nest in that abandoned factory and gathered all the stray cats there. I would go there every day to deliver food to them to check their condition. Even if I have something to do, I would ask the aunt of the orphanage to send it to me. After a long time, this has become a habit. At the end of the live broadcast that night, it suddenly rained heavily. I was afraid that those kittens would run out mischievously and get hurt, so even if it was very late, I decided to drive to have a look. Then I saw Li Xinrong confessing loudly to Song Jingshu. I hid aside and didn't listen carefully to what they said. When I looked up again, I only saw their backs walking to the negative floor. When I saw the kittens sleeping obediently, I left. Team Lu's eyes are as sharp as an eagle, calm and sharp. Why didn't you mention this matter when Li Xinrong and Song Jingshu disappeared? Iside, I forgot. Team Lu was almost angry with me and laughed. Sumo, is your excuse too clumsy? You are not amnesia. How can you forget it? That night I drank. When I came back from the abandoned factory, I was caught by the traffic police. Not only was I fined, but my driver's license was also temporarily withheld. After my sister passed away, I had to rely on sleeping pills to fall asleep, so after I came back, I didn't care about my drinking and still took sleeping pills. So when I woke up the next day, I had a splitting headache, and I was a little confused about what happened that night. Seeing Team Lu's still suspicious eyes, I added another sentence. I don't know if I'm lying or not. After pondering for a while, Team Lu took out his mobile phone and made a phone call. Check. I'm a little puzzled. Officer, Li Xinrong is the most direct victim. If you ask her, You will know who the real murderer is. Team Lu gave me a complicated look. Her mood hasn't calmed down yet, and she doesn't want to say it. The room suddenly became quiet, but Team Lu suddenly watched the explanation video of the college entrance examination math questions I had taken, and watched it with interest. This made me not sure what he meant for a moment. 10. Suemo, why do you like mathematics? For this question I really thought about it seriously. Because, in the world of mathematics I can often find the answer. What else? Also, of course, mathematics is the best in all my subjects. The language is the worst. I have memories and my mind is filled with either my father's scolding, his fists and broken wine bottles all over the house. His happiest moment was when he smashed the empty wine bottle on our heads, and he even laughed happily. Laughter covered up our sobbing, and outsiders who didn't know it thought that our family had a party every day. At that time my math was very good. I clearly remembered how many bottles of wine my father drank, smashed many bottles, scolded my mother, and kicked my sister many times today, but I never remember myself. My father rarely hits people with his hands because his hands are used to take his beloved wine, and kicking with his feet is a great gift to us. In contrast to mathematics, my Chinese is very poor, because composition questions are often linked to family affection. The highest score praises the warmth and beauty of the family, the greatness of the father, and the greatness of the mother. I wrote the lowest score. I described my family truthfully, and the comments I received were indeed that the content was not positive, too exaggerated and fictional. But this is my daily life. Later, I realized that the world must need some beautiful lies to maintain the balance. If you don't cater to the established secular rules, you will definitely be abandoned. 11. Which of all the mathematical symbols do you like best? Pi. I like unknown things. Isn't X the same? I smiled and shrugged my shoulders helplessly. No, X can be solved, but pi layer by layer, each layer is unknown. Are you so sure that you won't stop at a certain level? I don't have that ability. I can't predict the unknown. Team Lu pursed his lips. Your father did that to you. Don't you want to kill him? Team Lu. We detected Li Xinrong's blood in Sumo's car. 12. Hearing this sentence, my face was a little flustered. Suemo, what do you say? Oh, this Li Xinrong took my car before and had a nosebleed. Maybe. It was at that time. If you don't believe it, you can ask her. My face is full of certainty. Suemo, I found that you really like to lie. Team Lu. Nanjing pleaded guilty. He said that he kidnapped Li Xinrong and wanted to break her hands and feet before killing her. But he didn't succeed because we came in time. Team Lu was so angry that he slapped his big hand and came to me and stared at me fiercely. Suemo, I know you did all this. I will definitely find evidence and ambush you. I frowned and said, Team Lu, what are you talking about? I don't understand. He snorted coldly and turned away. It rained heavily for several days in the southern city, which was a good day for cockroaches. Even at the gate of the police station, there are several. They wanted to climb on me, but I crushed them to death with my feet. I briefly rubbed the soles of the water in the puddle and got into the car. The agent asked me where I was going. I casually patted my sister's urn. Cemetery. Today is my sister's death anniversary. I put flowers and urn in front of her tombstone and caressed her photos nostalgically. The older sister in my memory is gentle, strong, optimistic and cheerful, which is completely different from my naturally pessimistic sister. When I found her hidden depression certificate from home, I never thought that she was the most depressed one. It seems that I have never really entered my sister's heart. For various reasons we haven't sat together and had a good chat for a long time. If that day, my sister won't commit suicide, it was those people who killed her together. Even if she suffers from severe depression, she still tries so hard to live. We want to have our own house, our home, but even this hope will be destroyed. I picked up the urn and got up solemnly, took a deep look at my sister's tombstone and walked out. I should accept it. It's my final judgment. Sure enough, Team Lu was waiting for me at the gate of the cemetery. He showed the arrest warrant and said, Suemo, we found the finger bones of your father Su Weiguang in your car. You are suspected of killing Su Weiguang. Please go back with us to assist in the investigation. It's worthy of Team Lu. It was discovered so soon. The pi logo on my car is made of my father's ping bone. When I arrived at the police station, I happened to see Song Jingshu coming down from the police. His face was pale and so thin that a gust of wind could blow him down. His mother broke down and cried behind him, but as soon as she saw me, she immediately ran over and knelt in front of me. Suemo, can you let my son go? He likes you so much. He is innocent. Don't you just want me to plead guilty? I recognize it. I admit that you and your father forced your sister to donate blood for my son and drained her blood after her death. I know everything. Please let my son go, I beg you. Song Jingshu has Rh-negative blood type and so does my sister. My father sold my sister to the Song family and used it as a mobile blood bag for Song Jingshu. Even when he died, he didn't let go of it. Song Jing looked at his mother in a dad. Sometimes I envy him. He loves his mother, and his mother loves him very much. In order not to put his mother in jail, he was willing to do anything, even if he was in jail. And his mother would rather collect blood for him illegally for him. 14. I smiled and looked at Team Lu. Officer, I tied Li Xinrong and I also broke her leg. As for Song Jingshu, I threatened him. Hearing this, Song Jingshu suddenly looked up at me in shock. His voice was hoarse and he stuttered. No, it's all what I did. It's none of Sumo's business. Team Lu looked back and forth between me and Song Jingshu several times. Song Jingshu is a senior in the first grade of seniors, and I was in the same school with him in high school. He is in poor health and rarely appears in school, but no one will forget him, because he will always be the first in every exam. I can always see him in the coffee shop where I work. He likes to drink coffee with milk and sugar. Once I couldn't help asking him why he didn't drink milk tea directly, so that he wouldn't be in trouble. But he looked at me seriously and said that he likes trouble. I admire him and admire him. I successfully entered his university. Knowing that he was the president of the mathematics club, I entered the mathematics club and always asked him questions. He seems to be cold on the outside, but he is a very gentle person in heart, and he always answers me meticulously. So when I knew that it was his mother and father who drained my sister's blood for him, I didn't know how to face him. He called me that night to explain the question, just to tell me that he was willing to do anything for me, just begging me to let his mother go. 15. Momo, I'm sorry. A voice came from behind me. I turned my head and looked at it. It was my mother. I'm waiting for her to say something more. But she stopped talking, and my heart cooled down little by little. I shouldn't have hoped for her. I sent her the surveillance video of my sister's victim, which clearly recorded the process of Li Xinrong killing my sister. But she chose to be silent. I smiled bitterly. It turned out that there are really mothers in this world who don't love their children. I remembered when she hadn't divorced my father yet. My father likes to drink and beats us to death when he is drunk. At first, my mother would protect me and my sister, but after a long time she was also afraid of pain, so she covered her lips and turned around and cried silently. The days passed like this, until the neighbor bumped into my mother walking side by side with a tall man, and began to spread the rumor that she was cheating. When my father heard it, he felt that he had been cheated on, so he beat my mother hard, and several belts were broken. My eardrum ruptured to protect my mother at that time. After knowing that I would never hear it again, although I was sad, I was more fortunate. Because my mother finally made up her mind to divorce my father. After presenting the evidence of the injury appraisal, they successfully divorced, and the court sentenced me and my sister to my mother. As soon as I came out of the court, my father wanted to hit my mother again, but was stopped by a tall man. I can't beat it. My father can only. I swallowed this breath for a while, thinking about the trouble I would find my mother later, but I didn't know that the man squatted in front of our rental house every day, and even rented out the opposite room. Now my father had no choice but to slip away. Later, I realized that the man turned out to be my mother's first love. She came here to see if my mother was doing well. I had a premonition that my mother would go with this man. Sure enough, a few days later, she half squatted down and held me and my sister in her arms and choked up and said that she was going to leave us for a while and try to give us a better life. But when we called her a month later, she said embarrassedly that let's not go to her again and call my father if we have anything to do. My sister said that my father was in prison because he was drunk and injured someone, and the landlord urged him to pay the rent. He really didn't know what to do. The other side didn't respond for a long time. Looking down, the phone had already been hung up. It was she who asked us not to disturb her, but she pushed my sister into the abyss, and she herself stood on the high platform and looked indifferently. Since she likes to take care of Li Xinrong so much, I will let her take care of her for the rest of her life. 16. Suemo, where did you hide your father Su Weiguang's body? You harmful spirit, you have harmed my sister. I'm going to kill you. As soon as I opened my mouth, I was pushed to the ground by Li Xinrong's brother. The urn in his hand fell to the ground in response to the sound. With a bang, the blood-mixed bone talisman paper flowed all over the ground, which looked shocking. Thick, the bloody smell penetrated into their noses, and some people couldn't help vomiting directly, and Li Xinrong's brother was even more scared and fainted. I buried my sister's urn after I disposed of my stepfather and father. The urn that my mother took from my house was my father's blood and bones. Seeing this scene, my mother's eyes suddenly changed, as if I were some kind of horrible monster. I stared at her eyes. Mom, what are you afraid of? Don't you hate my father? You should be happy. But neither can you. Can't. She was also so scared that she knelt on the ground, like a swallow in her throat, and she couldn't speak anymore. Team Lu asked, where is your father's body? The corpse. I gave it to a snake in the mountain behind the abandoned factory. As for his skull, I threw it into the sewer. 17. I used my stepfather to violate my sister's affairs and his reputation, sent an anonymous email to threaten him, asking him to seduce Song Jingshu's mother, which made her hate my father. My stepfather is well-maintained and knowledgeable, much better than my father. My father was soon abandoned, but this did not prevent him from continuing to gamble and drink, But no one took care of him this time. He was thrown out again because he didn't pay back the money he owed the casino. I secretly observed him for several days and found that the casino he went to was near the factory, which was hidden and remote. He drank too much and cursed to the back mountain to pee. I followed him quietly and deliberately made a noise when he was peeing. He was so scared that he almost became impotent. He quickly pulled up his trousers and looked around in horror, shouting who it was. Seeing that it was me, he asked me doubtfully why I was here. "Dad, I heard that you are short of money recently. Didn't I become an internet celebrity? I still have a little money in my hand. I didn't send it to you on purpose." With that, I stretched out my left hand and stacked a pile of money. He looked greedy, but he was still a little wary. I sighed and said to him with a slight cry, "Dad, Mom has a new family, and my sister has also left. I only have one relative like you. Who else can I give this money to you? I just hope that Dad can accompany me more in the future. I haven't had dinner with you for a long time." The vigilance in his eyes disappeared. He walked straight to me and took the money in my hand. While counting, he said, "It's a big deal. You're my daughter. I can still." At the same time, I quickly took out the brick on the right and hit him on the head. After he fainted, I immediately took out a short knife and cut his neck. After confirming his death, I found a very hidden place to hide his body. After everything was dealt with, I went back to the orphanage and drove home. The next night, I dismembered my father's body under the pretext of feeding the cat. 18. Li Xinrong is a good friend I met in my part-time job in a coffee shop. At first, I didn't understand why she killed my sister. Later, I tied her up, and she told the truth under my questioning and intimidation. She said that her mother's cheating ruined the whole family, and made her always pointed out by people in the community. It was not until her father married my mother, and my mother spoiled her like a pearl, that these discussions gradually disappeared. She happened to see her father doing that kind of thing to my sister. She was afraid that my sister would shake things off and ruin her current perfect family, so she impulsively touched my sister. When she finally realized what kind of mistake she had made, she called her father in a panic. Naturally, her father didn't want his daughter to go to jail, so he disguised the scene as a suicide. When I saw my sister's body and saw the hairpin in her hand that seemed to be used to commit suicide, I knew that my sister was killed by her, and it was related to my good friend Li Xinrong. Because of that hairpin, I bought two and gave them to my sister and Li Xinrong respectively, and my sister's one was lost long ago when she was taking the bus. It was not until I saw the surveillance that I dared to confirm this terrible fact. Before his father went to prison, he owed a lot of gambling debts. After he went in, some strange people often squatted at the door to collect debts. My sister and I were scared, so we bought a surveillance camera and kept an eye on it all the time. Later, after paying off, the monitor was mounted in the corner of the door. For the sake of beauty, it was covered with decorations. From the outside, it can't be seen that there is a surveillance hidden inside. Their crimes were clearly captured by the surveillance camera. I didn't choose to prove it. According to the police, I will personally avenge my sister in my own way, even if it will be irredeemable. After the gunfire, the floating foam in the sky finally torn apart and blended into the arms of the Mother of the Earth. 19. Songjingsu Extra. Suemo, look. You love your sister, but the people who love you are not only your sister, but also many people, the children of those orphanages, your fans, students, all the people who have been favored by you and me. At that time, I looked into your eyes and said that I like trouble, but in fact I was saying that I like you. You were very smart, but you were very stupid that day. I customized her favorite symbol pi into a keychain, and put it in front of her tombstone. This symbol is clean, no hatred, no pain, no blood. Suddenly remembering something, I laughed dumbly. There is one more thing you don't know. In fact, there is no mathematics club in Nanjing University. I know you like mathematics. Although I don't know if you will be admitted to my school, I still founded the mathematics club for you. I want to build a small world for your love. And now you are gone, and the mathematics club has also been dissolved. Will you blame me? I hope you can blame me and run into my dream and scold me, instead of being like now. No matter how many times I fall asleep, you won't appear in my dream. I seem to be sleepy. I'll come to see you tomorrow.